true. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I tell you the whole story. It's impossible to say how the idea first entered my brain, but once conceived it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of this eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded. With what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him, and every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I'd made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to have seen how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so as not to disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ah! Would a madman have been as wise as this? And then, when my head was well within the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single ray fell upon the vulture eye, and this I did every night for 7 long nights, just at midnight, but I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible for me to do the work. For it was not the old man that vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went courageously into his chamber and spoke boldly to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, inquiring how he has passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept.
The Elephant Man. I think that's what we call it now. It's my boy's friend, it's Richard. Hiya. Hi everybody. Hiya. How are you? I'm very well. I'm really looking forward to today's show. I think it's going to be a cracker. We have two returning teams. Well, I've got my stand head-to-head with me. Yeah. And Linda and Sarah, who are also very, very good at it. Unfortunately, came across those tough now with football managers got knocked out. So I suspect they'll do very well as well. Now, you know what, I might say to you that someone in our midst has a, has a certain skill or a certain job or something. Yeah. There are 2 people on today's show, and you need to spot them with you, you can go up and down. 2 people on our show today are priests. Okay, I'm going to use my... That's the thing to do. Yeah, just you're not allowed to ask. You're not allowed to ask, are you a priest? But anything like other question you're allowed to answer, and you're allowed to have a little guess on how we keep giving away the jackpot. 3 days in a row we've given away the jackpot. Now our Christmas party's going to be brilliant. Oh, it'll be fun. I'll do my that trick. We'll be fine. Or not again. Thanks very much indeed, Rich. Now, every question on one has been put to 100 people before the show. Our contestants today are looking for a pointless answer. That's an answer that none of our 100 people gave. And each time that happens, we will have 250 quid to the jackpot. Yes, Maitland and Andrew won the jackpot again last time, so today's jackpot starts off at £1,000. So, if everyone's ready, let's play pointless. Okay, the pair with the highest score at the end of the round will be eliminated, and remember there is to be no conferring during the round itself. Okay, our first category today is World Geography. World Geography. You're deciding on pairs, who's going to go first, who's going to go second. And whoever's going first, please step up to the podium. Okay, let's find out what the question is. Here it comes. We gave 100 people 100 seconds to name as many capital cities north of Paris as they could. Capital cities north of Paris. Yeah, well, for any capital city which is north of Paris, any capital city north of Paris has to be the capital city of a country that is a sovereign state and a member of the UN, of course. Very, very close to us. Thanks very much indeed, Richard. Now then, Lou and John, you all drew lots before the show, and today you're all going to go first. Lou, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. What do you do?
I'm a newborn hearing screener.
A newborn hearing screener. I see. That makes sense. I see. Yes, you see. I know. I've got to stop going. You were born again. I thought I found my first degree. Give it away. A newborn hearing screener. That I understand, right? So how do you do that?
It's very technical.
Well, it must be because obviously you can't ask them if they heard it.
No, we got some wave or no. Basically, we have a machinery, basically down to the baby's ear. You see the big salary.
Oh, and what do you do when you're not doing that?
Well, we have a 7-year-old little boy's after it now. There's a lot on it. But when I'm at home, I just like cake.
Oh, what a great answer. Yes, cake.
Cake, really?
Perfect. Any favourite kind of cake?
All cake is good.
All cake is good cake. Never a truer word said. Lou,
Yeah.
we're looking for any capital city that's north of Paris.
I'm going to go with Copenhagen.
Copenhagen, says Lou. Let's see if that's right. Let's see how many are 100 people say Copenhagen. take a look at the scores as they stand. 25, the best score of that half. Joe, very well done to you. Then we travel up to 37, where we find Linda and Sarah, up to 39, Lou and John. Not that far up to 44, where we find Dan and Mark, but Mark, the rather high score. We need a nice low score from you in the next class. How are you? Your geography good, Mark? Okay, well, very, very best of luck. We're going to come back down the line back in a second. Please step up, please. Okay, now, Sarah. Was Linda
Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watcher's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved suddenly on the bed as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with a thick darkness, for the shutters were closed fastened through fear of robbers, so I knew he could not see the opening of the door. And I kept pushing it on, steadily, steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening and the old man sprang up in bed crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not the groan of pain or grief, oh no. It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew that sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world has slept, It has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew he'd been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when it turned on the bed, his fears ever since growing upon him. He'd been trying to find them causeless, but could not. He'd been saying to himself, it's nothing but the wind in the chimney. It's only a mouse crossing the floor. Or it's merely a cricket that has made a single chirp. Yes. He'd been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but had found all in vain. All in vain. Because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room.
Spindel. Oh, lecker. Ja.
When I'd waited a long time, very patiently without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length, a simple, dim ray like the thread of a spider shot from out of the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open. Wide, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot.
And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the sense? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage, but even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I've told you that I'm nervous. So I am. And now, upon the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of this old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror, but even yet I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder, louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leapt into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed upon him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This did not vex me, however. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there for many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more.
me mad. You will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned. I worked hastily but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, the arms, and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, would have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out. No stain of any kind. No blood spot whatever. I'd be too wary for that. A tub had caught on. Ha ha! When I made an end of these labours, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a strange knocking at the front door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men, who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbour during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled. For what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, had been my own in a dream. The old man, I mentioned, was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house and bade them search. Search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale and fancied them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat, and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness, until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the room to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the old men, but the sound continually increased. Oh my God, what could I do? I foamed. I raved, I swore, I swung the chair upon which had been sitting, I grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose all over and continually increased. It grew louder and louder and louder, and still they sat pleasantly and chatted. Was it possible they heard it not? Almighty God, no. They heard, they suspected, they knew, they were making a mockery out of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. Again, I felt I must scream or die. Again, here, now, louder, 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 louder. Villains. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the plank.